This slide was going to be for an intro, but I just got one. So instead, I'll warn you to memorize something. I had to put it to song, so I'm going to be singing in a couple of minutes. So I'm building a company called Opsolutely, and we deploy your services to AWS. So we have to connect to a lot of different Amazon APIs. At first, we wrote good tests to give ourselves good code coverage and made sure our system worked, then just mocked out the actual network calls to AWS because we assume AWS is working on the other side of that. Then application load balancers were launched, and we thought, okay, this is a great product. We're going to support this. It gives you great support for WebSockets and gives you dynamic port configurations. So we wrote support, wrote tests, shipped it, and there was like a bug or two. And then we realized that our approach had been to just test our side of things. We didn't know how to test that we weren't violating some internal constraint of AWS itself. How do you make sure that, that you're actually getting really great code coverage against the real features? Now, one way to do this is just run your tests against AWS. It's possible, but it's so expensive that it's probably how Jeff Bezos was able to afford this ridiculous outfit. Like, I need to drink LaCroix, and that money can't go to EC2. So we need to find a different way to do that. That's right around the time that we got involved with the Moto project. Moto started as a mock for Boto, the popular Python client to AWS, but it's now so much more. So in the beginning, Steve created a backend support for EC2 and S3, then added DynamoDB and SQS. And like, that's good enough, right? No, now there's so many. ACM API gateway, auto scaling and batch, CloudFormation Cloud, watch and data pipeline, ECR, ECS, ELB, EMR, got it. Events, Glacier, KMS, Kinesis Lambda, Logs, OpsWorks, Poly, RDS, and Route 53. And then finally, we added X-Ray. Okay, nailed it. So it's a really good mimic of AWS. It's all these different things, and they know about each other in the back end. So you create a SSL certificate here, and you get to attach it to a load balancer here. And if it doesn't line up perfectly, you get the same error as you would get in AWS in production. So it's like you're actually testing against the real AWS. So it sends you the exact same errors. You test those exact errors. You test for the same error messages in your tests. You're good to go. It's also very fast. You can use this right now. You do pip install Moto, or if you want to ruin the conference Wi-Fi, you can get a Docker image that is the entire Moto server. And it runs in two modes. You can either embed it in your Python code, if you write Python, or it runs as a standalone server where any client at all can connect to it. So every AWS client, or a popular one, supports overriding the endpoint. You just point it at, instead of aws.amazon.com, localhost. And you've got yourself an AWS. And when you run it in that mode, you get to see inside and look at the kinds of pieces of state that get built up when you configure, say, a load balancer in AWS, and see what kinds of things have you done. Debugging that you would not get unless you were on a team working at Amazon. And there's a funny thing about the Moto project. The docs are kind of amazing. You don't get such a well-constrained, perfectly elaborated, specified software project outside of like NASA. So this becomes a really easy project to bring people into and a great way to practice your open source contributions. So if you are an open source veteran, we'd love your pull requests. But if you are not totally comfortable with contributing to open source and you think it's something you'd like to do for your career or for fun, come join us. If you are interested at all you need to do is pick one of the services that aren't implemented yet, or an endpoint in an existing service that's not implemented yet. And for example, ELB, when I added this support, I never got around to adding remove tags because Game of Thrones was on, and I just didn't get there. So you could do it, and that's the file where you add it. Your first couple pull requests, I'd be happy to shepherd the code through you myself, show you the lay of the land, and get you a little bit familiar. Because it turns out that re-implementing all of the $200 billion company that is Amazon Web Services is really easy when it doesn't have to do anything. It's just variables in memory. It's a lot of fun to work on. It can help you get your tests working really well, and your code working really reliably, and it's a fun way to connect with open source. Thank you very much.